Okay, we called this January 4th, 2024 meeting of the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee to order. It is 1:03 p.m. Aaron, would you please do the roll call?
Yes, we may have some fill-ins today, so I may not get everybody's name right. Sean Baskey for Luke Boland. Here. Jamie Acton.
Sorry, here.
Craig Lyon.
Present.
Melinda Kohlhaas.
Here.
Brad Coy.
Here.
Ben White.
Present.
Our newest addition, Taylor Keegan. Yay! Taylor has replaced Steve Rayfuse both on the TAC and as supervisor, park supervisor. So congratulations to Taylor. It's very exciting. Yemi Olimi.
Present.
And then our fill-in for Brian Lindemood.
Andrew Gallagher. Andrew Gallagher with the Alaska Railroad Capital Projects.
Thank you. And then Matt Stitchick. Okay, we do have quorum.
Okay, so Matt's not in.
It looks like Matt's not online or in person.
Okay, so we're missing Matt and then Steve Rebecca.
Yes, Steve Buffalo did give indication that he is going to be absent. He's gone all of January, so.
Okay. Then now we'll get started on the next item. We do the public involvement announcement, please, Aaron.
Of course, AMATS committee meetings are open to the public and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are presented by staff or consultants. After the committee discusses the business item, the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to comment, to speak on their topic. Couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the committee, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. If you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. And before we jump into the meeting, I just wanted to say welcome to 2024. And also acknowledge that while we're still meeting on a Thursday, it is the first week instead of the second. And we are meeting at 1 p.m. instead of 2:30 p.m. and in a different room down the hall. So lots of changes. But thank you everyone who was able to make it here. For those who were not able to, I'm glad that we are recorded so that you can come back and watch later. The agenda is before us, and the approval agenda is the next item. Do we have any motions for approving the agenda?
I'll make a
This is
motion.
Okay, I heard a motion by Ben White to approve the agenda. And
No, this is Yemi Olimi. I second.
okay, and seconded by Mr. Alimi. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved. Next item are the minutes from our December 7th, 2023 meeting. Do we have a motion for approving the minutes?
Move to approve.
Okay, moved by Mr. Lyon.
I'll second by Yemi Olimi.
I think Mr. White beat you, Mr. Alimi, but thank you. Seconded by Mr. White. Let's see, are there any changes to the minutes?
I had one that possibly may result in a change
Okay,
where it talks about, says then DOT has no voice at the table. Should that either be MOA traffic as the chair? Or could it include
what page is that?
on page 2?
Okay, page 2. Under, right there under Mr. Youngmilla's comment.
I think he's referring to the policy committee.
Oh, is that what it was?
So what I was saying there is if the chair was not able to make motions or speak on items, then it would effectively mean that DOT has no voice at the table.
Oh, okay, so that's not the TAC. Okay, that's what I
Because
wasn't
it's
sure.
the TAC, DOT has 2 seats.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine then. No comments.
Question.
Yep.
TAC.
Yeah.
Any other changes to the minutes? I did catch one on bottom of page 9 under the meeting dates and times. Now that's where it talks about it says the first and the third TAC meetings will be held on the first and third Thursdays of every month. I think it just mixed up the fact that TAC was the second and policy was the fourth, and now they're moving TAC to the first and policy to the third. And so, so I think that paragraph just kind of muddled things just a little bit. Am I reading that right, Aaron? You see that paragraph there?
Looks like we'd want to delete the and third Thursdays after the TAC and then add or delete and second and fourth Thursdays for the policy committee one.
Well, we were talking about the policy committee meeting in this section, so it might actually be better to, are suggesting all TAC meetings be held on the first Thursday and PC meetings held on the third Thursday of every month from 12:30 to 2:30. Because we were talking about both at the time, so I think maybe we can clarify that. And then a little bit. The end of the year is difficult to change, on the plus it would be held the second and fourth Thursday of every month. And then we need to clean up the last sentence as well.
Yeah,
The TAC and PC meetings will be held the second and fourth Thursday of every month instead of. So we'll work on cleaning that up a little.
I got some language that you can look at too of how it could get changed, but it basically is to the same degree. And then if you look at the next page, the second paragraph, it just has what we agreed to. The committee agreed to, this is on the page 10, so if you move down the online, Christine, are you managing?
We move down.
Okay.
And you scroll down until you get to. Keep
Right.
going until you get to.
Page 10, so.
Oh, sorry, scroll to the top of page 10.
What's this one? Is this what we're doing?
Yeah, so the committee agreed to, and it mentions holding meetings on the first and third Thursday of every month with a time shift. So just clarifying that that means moving the technical advisory committee to the first and policy committee to the third. And so and I also was thinking it'd be helpful to add to the end of that sentence, pending feedback from the policy committee and potential minor adjustments. Because we were more open to the concept and we knew that times might not work. And so my recollection is that we didn't say this is, yes, only this, but the fact that we're now at 1 PM instead of the 12:30. Yeah, don't want to look like we're, then agree to this in concept, if that makes sense. So I can hand this to you, Lori, afterwards, or Aaron, kind of what my notes were on that.
Okay.
So. Let's see, any other changes to the minutes? So if, as we make a motion, would it just be with the changes as discussed? Is that adequate, or does there need to be more specificity?
Lori, can we do like a friendly amendment to the main motion? So if somebody wants to do a friendly amendment to make the changes that were discussed here, that would be enough to cover our bases.
Okay,
And then there'd be sorry, so did you make the main
Do I
motion?
have to think?
Yeah.
Um,
It's a complicated meeting again. I'm sorry.
Sure. Just, I would suggest that we can just have staff make those changes so it makes sense. And that I need to,
Right.
we don't need to wordsmith them.
Sounds good. And then the
Work?
second agrees. I think that'll cover.
No, I'll agree.
Okay.
okay, so we have a friendly amendment by Mr. Line and the second agreed by Mr. White. Now allow staff to make some modifications to the minutes to just clarify that the TAC is from the second to the first and the PC is from the fourth to the third, and any language that needs to be adjusted to
Just got it.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the will of the committee? I guess the question is, are there any objections to approving the minutes as amended? Okay, hearing no objections for December 7th, 2023 meeting minutes as amended are approved.
That was a lot of work. Well, thank you.
I will add,
Apologize for my part in that.
I will add that as I read through this and the description of discussion on the track J was very well put together. There's a lot of content in those minutes, so And I thought you did a great job of capturing all of that, so. So thank you for that. The next item that we have on our agenda are the action items. So we have item 5A, the AMATS draft 2020 boundary update. Will that be you, Aaron?
It will not be me, it'll be Christine Schuey.
Okay, go ahead, take it away, Christine.
Every 10 years when they conduct the census, we have an opportunity to change our boundary. So any new areas in the country that have 50,000 or more people will have to set up an MPO to receive federal funds. So our boundary changed if you, okay, just want to put up the
Yeah. if you want to speak.
second boundary. There were subtle changes, but we didn't have a lot of notes. And so when I was adjusting this in GIS, most of the notes that you see on this memo are just so that we have them for the next time we make a change, we know what changed. And the thought process of how we aligned it to park boundaries and how we included particular roads that didn't seem to be within our boundary. So that FHWA will release urbanized boundaries, and that's what you see in orange. This is a version of what they do. They have us two separate boundaries, and then DOT smooths the boundaries for the bowl and to that to the river. And so we've accepted those urbanized boundaries. So that is the minimum of what our boundary has to be, is that orange area. And then you can expand based on your transportation network. So, you know, that might cut off roads. If you're just looking at those particular boundaries, they're based on census block data. You can expand your boundary to include transportation infrastructure that would be included in our boundaries. So the only big changes that we made were that the line went kind of down the center of the Glen Highway. So we expanded that to include the Glen Highway. There's a small little portion at the top of an Eagle River that looks like a little island area that was in our 2010 boundary, was not in our 2020 boundary. We put that back in. It's close enough to the other boundary that it's just a skip so that you can, in case there's developed there, we would be able to help out with that. And mostly the other changes were just aligning the boundary to the park boundaries or down in the southwest to the land and to the new urbanized boundary, because our old boundary kind of kicked in and it has to at least be as big as the urbanized boundary that was agreed upon.
Couple of things real quick. So the reason we expand our boundaries to include the transportation system, but also for areas we anticipate growth or development is going to be happening over the next 20 years. So that's why you'll see some areas expanded out to the hillside area, Chugach, Eagle River, Oklutna, where there are not our urbanized area. In addition to it, I will make note that shrinking our boundary is a lot harder than expanding the boundary. So if you see something on here like, we don't want this, we want to take it out, we have to have really good rationale for why it's not going to be in our MPO boundary. It could be something like, this is on the mudflats, that's never going to be developed, so we shouldn't have it in here. However, we can't reduce the boundary in the orange areas. So you'll see there's a portion of the orange area that extends out into the mudflats where no development is going to be happening probably in the next 20 years. Doesn't matter. It's part of our urbanized area. We are required to incorporate it as part of our MPO boundary.
Is there any advantage to shrinking?
Not really. I mean, it basically is less areas where you spend or can spend your federal funding. So it's really not beneficial for the community at all for us to sit there and start shrinking things down. Expanding it is also, we need to be careful about it, make sure that we're doing it logically. We can't do Indian bird and gird because there's not enough density between our main boundary and those kind of areas where you can do the hops and the skips. I think like a hop and a skip is like a mile between each one. So it's pretty minor and you can only do like 2 or 3 at a time. So there's no way for us to include those areas there. And then any area where we are like, we don't really think there's going to be any development, we can cut it out if need be.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron and Christine. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee? I was gonna say that I did really appreciate the bullet list that went step by step. That was really helpful, and I think you nailed it, that it'll be good for documentation for the future to be able to know what was done and what the thoughts were, so thanks for that. One question I did have was, how does J-Bear like fit into the MPO question? As I saw that in there and it's part of the urban area, it just made me wonder, because we don't really do anything with J-Bear that I can recall of the past few years that I've been on the committee.
So we don't do any of our funding on J-Bear. But they are part of our community advisory committee. They are an important partner that we are required to coordinate with.
Right.
And freight, they're a freight partner. Oh yeah, they're on the FAC, sorry.
Yeah.
And so we have them included in our process, but yeah, we typically don't spend our funding on their area. Similar to the port, I guess, we typically don't spend. It's kind of only recently new that we learned we could spend our AMATS dollars on the port area. And so the 2010 boundary included all of that land out there that's not part of our urban area. And there's really no reason for us not to include it in there, just to make sure that it's part of our planning area. So we account for all the use that they have and the growth and the development, even if we can't put our transportation funds on their land. They still impact our transportation system.
Now, it's a lot of population there that we have to
Account
take
for.
into account where
So we're
they,
Yeah.
where they live, all that. So
Kind of for all those that are on the base, coming to and from the base.
Mhm.
So, and if kind of legally, we could put money and build infrastructure on the base.
No, I don't think so, because it's like a Defense Department thing and it gets really weird.
Okay,
The port's another one where like they don't have as strict of requirements on there, even though they're a secured facility. It's a different secured facility than the base.
yeah,
I vaguely remember something about the reason the port wasn't eligible before is because the public didn't have access to it. 'Cause it was
Yeah.
controlled. And clearly the public doesn't have access to the base.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
but we have to take into account the population there, that's for sure.
and we do utilize base land in the transportation system because they lease it out or whatever they do with it. So it's not like we can't. It's just we don't put our projects, past the secure fence area.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I just saw that and thought I'd ask, because
Yeah.
it's good to be educated and understand that. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, are there any comments from the public? Looks like there's one person that might have had their hand raised.
This is Mark Eisen with DOT. I just had a question. Aaron, it looks like the southern boundary is getting adding a little bit of the Seward Highway. Do you know what the milepost is for the end of that?
I don't exact milepost, but it's just a little south of the Potter Marsh Way Station.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks for the question, Mark. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, what is the will of the committee? There's a little note at the top of the memo that has.
So I'm looking for. I move we recommend to the policy committee the boundary changes as suggested by staff.
Okay, moved by Mr. Lyon,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Kohlhaas. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Okay,
Just so you guys know what's gonna happen with that now, it's gonna go to the policy committee for their review and approval, hopefully, and then once that's done, we'll send it to DOT and the state for their review and approval, and once that's done, it goes to FHWA.
okay.
So it's a lengthy process. We're just kind of getting started on the approval side.
Woohoo, well, we did ours pretty quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it. Did a good job, staff team that up. Okay, moving on then to action item 5B, the DOT&PF and PO coordination policy. Who's gonna be,
This will be me.
okay, go for it.
So this is a very unusual item. I don't know if we've done this in recent years for MPO or for AMATS. So bear with me as we kind of trudge through it. So I think a couple, like maybe 3 weeks ago, I met with DOT to go over the draft 24 through 27 STIP. They had some questions based on our TIP amendment number 2 and just wanted to get some clarification on funding and things like that. At that meeting, they handed me this policy and procedure document that you see. Go ahead and switch over. Sorry, Ken. Go ahead and switch over to the next this one. Okay, so policy and procedure document. So this is a pending document that they're anticipating on formalizing at some point, is my understanding. And they gave it to us to review. So what this has come from is AMATS sent a letter to DOT on the 24 through 27 STIP with some comments. And one of the comments was there was no coordination done with AMATS on the STIP prior to it going out. And so in response to that, DOT is putting this policy and procedure in place to kind of codify how DOT staff coordinates with the MPO. Because up until now, it's kind of been based on our operating agreement where we set out how the MTP and TIP is developed. And then some of the other stuff that's not in the operating agreement, it's more ad hoc. So DOT staff reaches out to me or other people at AMATS and we kind of coordinate and get things moving forward. So I think this is DOT's attempt to, here's everything we want to do on a regular basis to coordinate with the MPO. So wanted to bring it forward to get the TAC's comments, if any, and then the policy committee's comments, if any. Just as a note, this policy has no bearing on AMATS staff in any way, shape, or form as it's written. Because DOT does not dictate to AMATS how staff does their day-to-day operations or how they do coordination. Our operating agreement, our UPWP and federal regs dictate what that is. So it's just keep that in mind as you're wanting to make comments if you have any on this item. And just keep an open mind that, you know, in the past, things have been kind of loosey-goosey, and I think we're trying to formalize things on a regular basis. So just be aware of that. AMATS staff does have some comments. A lot of them are just technical little things, but 2 things I do want to bring up, just for your information. One, the policy overall, while I think it's a good attempt, I think it doesn't do a very good job explaining the 3C process very well and incorporating that into whatever they're talking about here. This to me reads more of you as the MPO do as you're told by DOT in the coordination process versus let's work together to get this coordination process done. And then I think there's some concerns, you know, I specifically had on the last little portion under the authority section. I'm just going to scroll down. The first paragraph under authority where it says DOT is responsible for planning the statewide transportation system, including the national highway system at the interstate, whereas an MPO is responsible for transportation planning in a metropolitan area, normally on lower functionally classified roads and highways. I think how that's written is a little disingenuous, as we've learned, you know, recently, and as everybody's been corrected by FHWA, AMATS is the one who oversees the transportation planning process within our boundary and does have a say in decisions for projects that are moving forward or not by including them in our MTP and our TIP. So I think if this PNP goes forward, there needs to be some adjustments, especially on the authority side, because I think it's misleading in the responsibilities and who's responsible for what. Sorry, I'm trying to be tactful here when I talk about this to be nice to everybody. So I think what the plan was, last I was told, they're going to put this out for public comment. I don't actually know if that's what they're going to do or not. And so it was in January, they were going to put that out for people to review and comment on. So I figured it was a perfect opportunity to bring it to the TAC and PC to get comments and provide them back to DOT. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Couple comments.
Okay, go ahead.
As Aaron pointed out, this document is a state document. It controls how the state runs their policies and procedures, and that's great. It does not dictate at all in any way, shape, or form how AMAT staff does their work. And they're more than busy enough as it is, and they don't need anything added to their plate on things that they may have to do with this quarterly, what is this creature called? This quarterly plan of some sort. That's great, and I'm sure that Aaron and the staff would be happy to help. And all that good stuff, but it just can't be something that adds on to the job that they are already tasked with doing by the AMATS policy committee. In addition, under the authority, federal law is very, very clear that the AMATS MTP requires AMATS to look at the planning for all facilities inside the MPO's boundaries, regardless of ownership. That's why we have to include the funding in there that the state can bring to bear, whether it's state funds or state NHS funds, or the railroad's 5307 funds, or all those different pots of money that the railroad controls. This includes municipal bonds are in there as well. All of those are in there because the feds want you to look at everything. They don't want the MPO just to look at certain classifications of roadway. They don't want those things to be done in the vacuum. It's a system. So that language definitely would need to be clarified because whereas an MPO is responsible in our case for funding improvements on a lot of the lower classification roads and highways and not necessarily the national highway system, AMATS funds certainly can be used and have been used on the national highway system in the past. So that definitely needs to be clarified there. Those are my main thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Other questions or comments from the committee?
I have some to share.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm all in favor of coordination, and I think that initiative of wanting to do more coordination and for the interest of all players, I think is a great thing. So, but how it gets done, one thing I was a little bit concerned about is this piece about where it would be reviewed at the venues at a quarterly meeting, at a minimum at the quarterly meeting at these following venues: statewide MPO quarterly meetings, the TAC and the policy board meetings. One thing that I'm not that comfortable with is having it brought forward at this forum without knowing that staff's looked at it in great detail. You know, we rely on you guys looking at, hey, are we in compliance? Are the allocations being used properly? Versus us looking at something and being tasked with approving something or recommending it for approval to the policy committee. Even at their level, you know, we rely on the resource of staff doing their jobs. And then the coordination part coming and, you know, just being that added piece. But this piece, I don't know if it belongs here at the TAC meeting to be going through this report. I think what I would like to see, and I would offer as a recommendation, is great, let's bump up the coordination piece. Whatever you guys can do, work together with the 4 Cs or 3 Cs. And then if there's anything that needs to be brought forward as a summary that's distilled, then bring it forward to us. And then we can, you know, have a conversation or recommend further. But I don't see it being that effective as it's written. The other very minor comment that I have is define the acronym STA. I wasn't sure what that meant. It's within the authority piece. And I also agree with Mr. Lyon's comments about the authority piece. I mean, that's already defined elsewhere. But again, the overall goal is favorable. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Fox. Any other questions you have from the committee? I have a few things also to add. one, I feel like this policy is a great step by DOT, trying to do more cooperation and coordination. So as I got it and thought about it, I thought, hey, it's got actionable things that they can do. It's got specificity that's directing what it seems like was their staff when it talked about NPO field planning units. That's DOT staff, right?
Yeah, it would all be DOT staff.
So it looks like they were laying out specifically what their staff could do to improve that coordination. Trying to address some of the challenges that came up with the STIP. So I felt like that was a big plus, that they were being mindful of the NPO and wanting to do more to be on the same page. So I'd say, kudos on that. I'm really glad they put the authority discussion here, because it kind of raised to me, I think, where some of the differences in perspective arise. When it talks about NPO is responsible for, well, the state is responsible for the statewide, and NPO is responsible for the transportation planning metropolitan area, normally in lower functional classification roads and highways. So that piece right there, I disagree with, kind of as you raised, Aaron, that based on things that I've read, that's not how it's supposed to be. But I think this is illuminating that if this has been how things have been done, it makes a lot more sense why things have been done the way they've been done. So I think the first step of improving that coordination and that relationship is to first understand where things are coming from. And I think that that's what this has done for me, is it's made that very clear. And so I feel like the things that I've read, the NPO is the policy organization for the urban area. And that is overarching for DOT, for the municipality. It's a way to have the policies for this region to be set forth, so that then DOT can go and execute where it applies to some of their facilities, and the municipality can do it where it applies to our facilities. And it's all this regional cooperative coordinated effort, with NPO receiving kind of that funding and that authority and being dictated from FHWA, that's the avenue. So that's how I've understood it. And so I see differences here. And I think if we're able to have a conversation around this question of authority, I think some of the other pieces that I see in here, I have questions about, I think, and can play out a lot better, will become more clear. So for example, one thing that I've got this book that talks about kind of all of these things. And one thing that I read about it, it says, tips developed by NPOs must be incorporated directly or by reference and without change into the STIP. So it's kind of the reverse of what we've been doing with regards to the STIP being incorporated into the TIP almost kind of without change, or into the MPP without change. A little bit, if that makes sense.
Kind of. I mean, we have been incorporating the tip into this dip without change. DOT's been good on that. It's just, you always have to get to the point of where they'll approve it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think this is all, in my mind, a very positive first step, and I'm really appreciative that there's that openness to have this discussion and to see how we can have the better coordination and cooperation at the NPO, which the state is a key player. I mean, yeah, this is a very critical and important player that I very much appreciate all the effort that they've been making. So, and all the things that they've been doing, I think it's very, very valuable. So, just wanted to share my thoughts on that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Something you said maybe kind of triggered this in me, and I don't mean that triggered in a bad way, but made me think of this. Like, it may seem like it at times, but I was not here when the NPO was created. I can only speak from the last 20 years of experience, and I can tell you my experience, which does not seem to have changed since Aaron started, which is that the relationship between Central Region all of Central Region staff and the MPO has been very, very collaborative and comprehensive, continuous and cooperative. It has been and continues to be a very good relationship, and they have worked very well together to continue to keep people in the loop. So that hasn't changed, and I don't expect that to change. The challenging part has been elsewhere.
That was valuable stuff. Thank you. That's what I'm for.
At times.
I actually have a follow-up because you guys talking made me think about, so I have a real problem with this PMP, but I've been having a hard time putting to words what my problem is with it. It's really empty in its approach. Like, it doesn't commit to anything. Like, we will bring the STIP to you for review. We will bring our long-range plan to you review. We'll document how we've been doing outreach to you in coordination with you, and then provide that to you at your meetings. I'm like, well, but if you don't do any coordination like you did with the current STIP, then you have nothing to report to us. So I think my problem is it's not actually committing DOT to doing anything meaningful. It's a lot of just lip service to coordination. And I'm kind of disappointed by that now that I reread through here a little more. And again, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not being derisive about this, but I think it may need to be expanded a little more to be like, when the STIP is developed, here's how we're going to be reaching out to the MPOs for coordination, not just reporting on what we did during it. I wish they would expand this and not just with MPO, but everywhere. Hey, we're going to commit to X number of public meetings, or we'll actually send the information out to let people know that the meetings are happening so people can attend on a regular basis, and then report on how they went. Like, I think that's a really good approach that they could do for something like this. Yeah, I'll stop. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I feel like the fact that they've given us this as a preliminary draft is seeking the exact same sorts of feedback as what you're thinking and feeling. So it allows them to fill that out and understand. So I feel like this policy is opening a door for those, the feedback that you mentioned and that we provided here. So I appreciate them opening the door for that. And now I guess seeing them incorporate that in will be double kudos. So that will be the I guess the bigger step, but important. This is still an important thing. So another, go ahead, Belinda.
Positive comment is the status report. That's been very helpful. I've been using that as a resource. So I think those, again, actionable steps that we're actually using, and it creates dialogue, and I pick up a phone, I call Julia, we interact. So that's been a very positive resource. And I think that's part of the goal of the 3 Cs. So that's been helpful.
We'll say that is James started.
Yeah.
So he did that on his own and reached out to me to be like, let's start doing this. I'm like, okay, great. And so like he took the initiative to do that. So he's not here, so I can say whatever I want about him. But he's been doing a really good job with that. And so I think that shows that there is the opportunity to increase that coordination in a meaningful way and make it better for everybody in the long run.
And hopefully he'll provide his feedback on this, because he's the field staff that it mentions, right?
He'd be the one doing all the work.
So he knows like how he could do that and what this would look like to really continue to provide the service that he has shown from his efforts that he wants to provide. That's be great.
And I will say that from the department's perspective, with 3 NPOs now in our state, we realized a while back that we needed to start coordinating and getting some consistency within our MPO world. And so we've worked on starting to set up quarterly meetings where we sit down with our MPOs. And now we've got RTPOs and RPOs, regional planning organizations in the state. So this is getting bigger and broader as we go. And so one of the things that we're trying to capture is some consistency with how we're interacting with everyone. And I think a lot of what James has created and the work with Aaron and James and our relationship between Central Region and AMATS is starting to filter into other areas. And so we're looking to kind of replicate what we've developed here with MVP out in the Matsu. And so we're working on trying to capture, and I think that's what this intended, the intent behind this was to try and capture some of that, but I do know that this will be on the agenda at our next quarterly meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks, so.
Yeah, that's great to have that perspective that the many MPOs, the new MPO that MVP is now setting up, to have that as the backdrop and understand of where some of this is coming from. That's helpful. Okay, other questions or comments from the committee? Do we have any comments from the public? Anything online, Christine?
Nope, nothing online.
Okay. What is the will of the committee? I guess the question here on motions, at this point, we've talked about it, we've looked at it. Is it appropriate to provide a specific, like a response memo of sorts or comments, like how can we do that? I think we've made a lot of good statements here, but I'm wondering like the best way to like submit these.
I mean, try and have somebody make a motion to formalize some of what we've talked about here. So like reworking the authority section. And then other comments that the venues one, or, see how you want to comment on that one. Defining the SAT, that's a pretty easy one. And then you can make amendments to that motion if you guys think of more things. I don't know if there's a way to blanket, just say, provide all these comments that we've talked about today to the policy committee.
I guess my thought would be is that you talked about, we believe that they're gonna put this out for a public review.
That's what was said, but it was said in kind of like an offhanded way that I don't actually know if that's true. I'd have to look at the DOT folks in the room to
I
confirm.
don't know if we've ever put a policy and procedure.
No,
out.
no.
It may have gone out it may go out for a departmental review, but I don't know if it'll go out for public review.
You know, I kind of see the wisdom of something from AMATS in terms of a response, whether it be from the coordinator or, I mean, it would seem a little odd to have it come from the policy committee since the chair is a DOT employee, an at-will employee. You wouldn't want to get too far ahead of your ski tips there, I would think.
It'd probably be a letter from me as the coordinator.
Yeah, and
saying
so,
that it was reviewed by the PC.
I guess I'd be more comfortable with kind of directing you to write up some comments capturing what we talked about today. And if that means looking back at the draft minutes before they're approved or something and getting something together, rather than trying to remember and put it in an extremely long motion to say that. I don't know, that seems challenging.
It does, I agree. If we're not time constrained, we could even have it brought back as next month.
Yeah.
Well,
But if we are, I mean,
Yeah.
we could ask Aaron to have this sent around to us,
mhm.
you know.
I can try and finish it tomorrow and send it around maybe tomorrow or Monday, have you guys look at it. We just have to get it posted next Thursday to the PC, so as long as you all are able to look at it pretty quickly and just verify
Sure.
what we talked about. I'll work with Lori to go through the minutes and stuff and make sure I captured everything that you guys talked
Do
about.
we think we want to do this as a motion or just leave it at that? I'm happy either way.
I like having personally, I like having a motion to direct staff to do that, because then I can bring that to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
PC
yeah.
and say, this is what the TAC
Okay,
did.
I will move to direct staff to prepare a memo or a letter with our responses as captured in the minutes to prepare and have ready for the policy committee next week.
And send it around for
Well,
review.
yeah,
Okay.
sorry. What he said.
Okay. Motion moved by Mr. Lyon. Do you have a second? Seconded by Ms. Keegan. Do we have any objections to approving the motion?
Sorry, Aaron, does that make enough sense to you? Okay.
Okay, do we have any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. Does that work well? Okay. Perfect.
Brave new world.
Yeah. So, thank you, Craig, on that. That was good thoughts on how to do that.
I have one smart thought today.
Moving to the next item, we have item 6, project and plan updates. Are there any for us today? I don't see anything on the agenda.
I would like to bring up one real quick. So the 2050 MTP is getting close to finalize the version to bring it for you all for approval. We're anticipating February to bring that to the TAC and PC meetings for approval. So the plan right now is to send it to you all a couple weeks ahead of the meeting so you can have time to review it since it is such a lengthy document. So please be on the lookout for that, or an email letting you know if we're going to be delaying it to March or not. And then just go ahead and start reviewing that at your earliest convenience and get ready for the meeting. So how the TAC meeting is going to go, it's air quality conformity determination has to be approved first, then you can approve the 2050 MTP document itself. So that's the order you'll see it on the TAC. I bring this up now. I will not be at the TAC in February. So John Cecil will be filling in for me, and Christine or Chelsea Ward-Waller will be the project manager giving you the update and walking you through it all. So I'll be in Vegas celebrating time off with family and friends. So
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Well deserved time off. I know that there are members of the policy committee that are particularly interested in having as much time as they can to look at it. So when it gets sent to us, will they also have a chance? Because I know that they'll ask for as much time as they can, so we might as well start looking at it when we start looking at it.
yeah, one of the things I've been doing based on the last PC adventure we had is starting to send out the email to the TAC and PC members when the agendas are posted, as well as if we need them to review items early enough in advance. So once we send it to the TAC, we can also send it to the PC, just to give them a heads up that it's coming in some form at the X meeting, whenever that'll be, probably February, and give them enough time to review.
That sounds good. I know we've had work sessions in the past. Is this the sort of thing that we should anticipate doing that or no?
No, at this time, the plan's done, basically, so I hope there's no additional changes, or that'll be a real problem for us. If they're like minor, like spelling errors and stuff, we can take care of that, but if there's like we want this project out and this project in, that's gonna be pretty problematic.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And we are on a time crunch to help work with the state to get our MTP approved, so their STIP can be approved by the end of March. So that's why we're moving so fast.
Thanks for the reminder. That reminder is just gonna be important. I have a feeling. Okay, any general information items?
Yes, just to clarify, so at the PC meeting in December, it was decided to move the meetings to the first and third Thursday, see here, of every month. And then also to set the time 1:30 to 3. 12:30 didn't work for the
1 to
PC
3?
members. Sorry, 1 to 3.
Oh, darn it. I like 1:30.
12, yeah, the 12:30 to 2:30 meeting did not work because of timing for the assembly members. Because they have like budget stuff right before that meeting on the third Thursday, and so they asked to be 1 o'clock, and it all seemed to work out for everybody. There is a meeting after the PC meeting in the mayor's conference room right after us at 3:30. Kent made it pretty clear he can adjust that meeting if he needs to. So we are good to go in that regard. So just be on the lookout for that. There may be shifts every once in a while in our meeting dates because of the holiday. A good example is this July. The first Thursday falls on the 4th of July, so we bumped it to the second Thursday. So we may have shifts there, but that typically only happens during, like this year, a leap year, for example. So it's not going to be every year, but the hope is setting a same consistent time will be easier for the public and the committee members to know that it's always at 1 o'clock, regardless of which meeting you're attending. The hope is to eventually get them to be at the same location, because then it's even easier for people to be like, it's always at this location unless a shift has to happen or something. So we're kind of working there to make it easier for everybody in the public side.
How soon do you think we'll move over to the mayor's conference room?
Unfortunately, the first 6 months of this year are booked for something at this time. So We're just gonna go back to room 30 at the next meeting. The reason we're not there now is it was booked for something else that we couldn't adjust. So we're in this room just for this meeting. Every future TAC meeting here moving forward will be at room 30, our normal place. And then if the mayor's conference room becomes available this year, we'll shift over when it happens. If not, we'll try for 2025. Unless we find some other miraculous conference room that both meetings can be held in that kind of have the same setup. So
Okay,
we'll keep you guys posted as we make, if any changes are coming.
okay, perfect, thanks, Aaron. Any additional general comments? I'm not covered this.
There's one other thing, I'm just pushing this out there. AMATS has a spot open, a transportation planner, senior transportation planner position still open. So if you know anybody who would be interested in working for AMATS, please have them apply. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. And that position is doing the MTP, right?
That would be, that's position's primary focus is the MTP development. So if you're looking to make changes to the MTP, perfect spot to do it.
You want to have an impact on what input looks like.
Yep.
That's a big one. Okay. Then we'll move on to the next item, which is committee comments. Are there any comments from the committee members?
We've got the Anchorage Transportation Fair scheduled for March 28th at the Alaska Airlines Center. We've got January 25th targeted for the Matsu Borough Transportation Fair at the fairgrounds instead of the Menard Center. Menard Center already had bookings all the way through summer for any reasonable time for the fair, so we need to move it.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Other members of the committee have things to add? Things, I'll add a few from the traffic engineering department. We are currently coordinating with Kent Colhase, municipal manager, and Sean Baskey, Central Region DOT on the protected bike lane pilot project. Working on a memorandum of agreement that will confirm we can move forward with the pilot project for next summer on A Street and Sixth Avenue. So once that gets, if that gets approved, then we're gonna be moving into public outreach phase to get feedback on those concepts. We do have concepts that have been developed, so if anybody is interested, they can reach out to me. And at this point, we are just waiting on that final executive authority approval to make sure that we can move forward with this exciting project. The second thing for traffic engineering department is we also have a Vision Zero coordinator position that was funded. So we are in the works of getting that position all put together and organized and posted at some point that we have it created. So if someone is interested in Vision Zero in Anchorage, this is the way to make that happen. So be on the lookout for that position coming open as well sometime this year. Any other committee comments?
Our regional traffic engineer position is posted currently. I can't remember. That's
Yeah,
Scott Thomas's old position. So you hope to find somebody, anybody interested.
Big shoes.
Perfect, thank you, Sean. That is a good one. That'll be a valuable one to fill.
Yes.
I know Orion's been pulling double duty a little bit.
He's stretched. Really.
Okay, any other committee comments? Any public comments? Okay, seeing none, that moves us to adjournment. Do we need a motion to adjourn or do I just adjourn? Either way.
I think a motion is helpful.
Okay,
Second.
okay, move to adjourn in a second. We are adjourned at 1:57 PM.
Awesome, thank you.
That was good by Mr. Ryan, take it away.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks everyone that's been online.